The warship Kreller Fang drifted silently out of hyperspace. Its black hull gleamed in the cold light of Earth's sun. Commander Zorak stood at the viewing deck, tall and armored, his four-fingered hands resting behind his back. His reptilian eyes narrowed at the small blue planet floating ahead. So this is Earth? His voice was deep, filled with contempt. Behind him, Sub-Commander Threx clicked his jaws in agreement. Yes, Commander, primitive species. Their ships are slow. Their weapons ancient. One of our attack squadrons could burn this planet in hours. Zorak allowed a thin smile. Then our mission will be simple. The Krell Empire will take this world before they even know we are here. He turned to his console, bringing up scans of the planet. Green continents, wide oceans, thin atmosphere. Population billions, technology basic. Military strength laughable. At least, that was what the Krell archive said. Still, Zorak did not trust words alone. His experience taught him one thing: never underestimate an enemy you have not seen with your own eyes. He tapped the control panel. Launch a spy drone, cloak it. Send it down to the surface. Let's see what these humans truly are. Threx obeyed, his claws flying across the controls. Outside the ship, a small black sphere detached from the hull, vanishing into invisibility as its cloaking field activated. Suspense building. First strange event minutes later. The drone slipped through the clouds over a green forest. It moved silently, scanning for military bases. The readings were clear at first: roads, cities, farms. Nothing unusual. Then, in the middle of the forest, the drone found an enormous walled structure. Tall towers, strange domes, landing pads, obstacle courses. Soldiers moved in tight formations, carrying weapons. The drone's sensors zoomed in. The soldiers looked small, frail by Krell standards, but their movements were sharp, disciplined. Zorak tilted his head. This does not match the reports. What is this place? Threx checked the readings. Unknown. It is not in our planetary maps. Possibly a training site. Shall I enter for closer scanning? Zorak nodded. Yes, I want to see their weaknesses. The drone descended lower, slipping between the walls. And then, without warning, every scan went dark. Commander? Threx's voice was tense. We've lost signal. Something is jamming the drone. What? Zorak stepped forward. That is impossible. They have no such technology. Before he could react, the drone's camera flashed once, just long. Enough to capture a single frame of something approaching fast. A shadow. A blur, and then BZZT. The signal cut completely on the last frozen image. Zorak saw it, a strange winged craft, small, triangular, and impossibly fast. A human aircraft. It had been cloaked. Had seen the drone. And it had destroyed it. Zorak stared at the dead screen. How did they see through our cloak? Zorak decides to go down himself. Zorak turned to Threx. If this planet hides such technology, our reports are useless. I will see it myself. Commander, that is dangerous. We do not. I am not asking. Minutes later, Zorak stepped into the infiltration chamber. His armor shifted color, becoming a dull brown. A mask slid over his face, altering his appearance. Now to human eyes, he would look like a tall, scarred man in black tactical gear. The infiltration pod launched, burning through the atmosphere like a meteor before slowing and landing deep in the forest, far from human eyes. Zorak emerged, breathing Earth's air. It was lighter than the Krell homeworld, making his movements feel unnaturally quick. He moved silently through the trees, his visor mapping the direction of the strange walled fortress. After half an hour, he reached a ridge and froze. Below him, the fortress spread out like a small city. Inside, hundreds of humans in uniform ran drills. Some scaled walls while carrying heavy packs. Others wrestled in mud pits. Some operated strange weapon platforms that glowed faintly with blue light energy weapons. far beyond what the Krell thought humans possessed. And there, in the center, stood a giant building with a sign he could read, even from here. Terran Military. ACADMY. The first glimpse inside Zorak studied every detail. The humans were smaller, lighter, and weaker than any Krell soldier, but they moved with an intensity he had never seen in such a fragile species, some trained under crushing weights. Their faces red with effort. Others ran obstacle courses while dodging live stun rounds. There was something else, something that bothered Zorak. The humans were smiling. Even in exhaustion, even under pain, they looked as if they were enjoying the challenge, he muttered. To himself, strange creatures. A risky infiltration. Zorak waited until nightfall. The fortress was lit by tall lamps, but shadows covered the far corners. He slipped along the wall, scaling it in seconds with his alien strength. Inside, the air smelled of oil, metal, and something else. Burned ozone from the strange energy weapons. He moved silently between buildings, scanning everything he saw. Weapon storage, training arenas, simulation rooms. One building drew his attention, a massive dome with thick walls and a single guarded door. Whatever was inside, the humans clearly valued it. Zorak disabled a camera with his wrist device and approached. Just as he reached the door, a voice came from the darkness. You're not from around here. The shadow in the dark. Zorak spun, claws sliding from his gauntlets. But before he could strike, a figure stepped out of the shadows. A human woman in dark combat gear. She was tall for her species, with sharp eyes that locked on him like a predator's. A training sword rested casually in her hand. Zorak froze. This was not a random guard. She smiled faintly. You move well for a trespasser, almost like you've had alien training. Zorak said nothing, his mind racing. No human should have been able to detect him. And yet she had been waiting. She took a step closer, lowering the blade to her side, but keeping her stance ready. My name is Captain Arya Voss, she said. Instructor here at the Academy. And you, stranger, have just broken into the most dangerous place on Earth. Her smile grew sharper. Congratulations. You're about to find out why. Cliffhanger. End of part 1. Before Zorak could react, she flicked her wrist, and the world around him blurred. The ground seemed to tilt, the air grew heavier, and his legs felt like they were made of stone. What is this? He growled, struggling to move. Arya circled him, her sword tapping against her leg. First lesson, alien never assume humans are weak. Now, let's see how you handle the gauntlet. The heavy doors of the dome slid open behind her, revealing darkness within, and the distant, echoing sound of something large and hungry. Zorak's instincts screamed danger. But before he could step back, Arya gestured that the darkness swallowed him whole. Darkness closed around Commander Zorak like a prison. The heavy doors of the dome had shut behind him with a deep metallic clang. The air inside was cooler, but heavier. Every breath felt like it took more effort. The faint light from the entry hallway faded until only shadows remained. Somewhere ahead, something moved. Not footsteps, not machinery, something soft. Almost like fabric brushing against a wall. Zorak's alien vision adjusted quickly. The floor was made of some hard, smooth material. The walls were lined with panels that shimmered faintly as if reacting to his presence. From the far side of the chamber, a calm female voice spoke, echoing strangely in the space. Welcome to the gauntlet, alien. It was Captain Arya Voss. Zorak turned sharply. He could not see her. The sound came from everywhere at once, bouncing through hidden speakers. You wanted to see our academy, Arya continued. Now you'll experience it. Zorak's muscles tensed. What is this place? A training ground, Arya replied, but not for the weak. Without warning, the ground beneath his feet tilted slightly. Zorak adjusted his stance, but then a crushing weight slammed down on his body. His legs bent under the sudden force. Gravity. Artificially increased. Zorak snarled. Triple gravity. Impressive for humans. From the shadows, a faint movement. A shape darted between two pillars, fast, silent. Zorak's instincts screamed danger. He spun, claws sliding from his gauntlets. Show yourself. First encounter with the ghostsmithing struck him from behind. It wasn't a killing blow, more like a testing strike. A training sword cracked against his shoulder armor. He turned and lashed out, but his claws met only air. Whoever had struck him was already gone. A whisper brushed his ear. Too slow. Zorak growled. No one had ever moved faster than him in close combat, not even among the Krell elite. He crouched low, scanning the chamber. The pillars gave perfect cover for someone to vanish between attacks. The increased gravity made him slower, but his opponent seemed unaffected. He caught a glimpse again, a flicker of movement, a glint of steel in the dim light. This time Zorak didn't wait. He lunged toward it. His claws met a blade. The shock ran up his arm as steel met alien alloy. The figure was human, but her eyes were calm, focused, unshaken. Captain Arya. Up close, she looked younger than he had imagined, but her stance was perfect, her breathing steady. You fight well, she said softly, but you rely too much on strength. Before Zorak could reply, she twisted her wrist, disarming his clawed gauntlet, and kicked his knee out from under him. He hit the floor hard. The heavy gravity pressed him down like a mountain. Arya stepped back, sword resting on her shoulder. In the gauntlet, strength is nothing without adaptability. The gauntlet begins. The lights in the chamber flickered, and suddenly the walls began to move. Panels shifted, sliding into new positions. Pillars rose from the floor. A maze was forming around them. Zorak got to his feet, ignoring the pain in his leg. What is this? He demanded. A survival course, Arya said. It lasts 72 hours, but for you, let's see if you last 72 minutes. Before he could answer, she was gone, melted into the shadows again. The first trial began. From hidden ports in the walls, small spherical drones floated out. Each was armed with a small cannon that fired bright stun pulses. Zorak dodged the first, but the heavy gravity slowed him. The second shot clipped his shoulder, sending a jolt through his body. He dove behind a pillar, catching his breath. The humans had built this chamber, not for comfort, but to break a soldier's will. He could hear Arya's voice from somewhere ahead. Don't hide, alien. Move. Zorak gritted his teeth. He sprinted toward the sound, weaving through the maze. Smashing two drones with his claws. At last, he caught sight of Arya again, just long enough for her to vanish into a narrow passage. Psychological pressure hours, passed at least. It felt like hours. The maze kept shifting. Gravity levels changed without warning, sometimes heavy, sometimes almost weightless. At one point, Zorak turned a corner and found himself in a room with walls that rippled like water. The floor tilted beneath him, sending him sliding into a pit filled with foam that clung to his limbs like glue. He fought his way out, only to be hit by another stun blast. Arya's voice echoed again. Tired already? Zorak's breathing was heavy. This is not combat. This is a trap. Combat is a trap, Arya replied. And humans survive by turning the trap against the enemy. Her words irritated him, but deep inside, he began to realize something. She wasn't just testing his strength. She was testing his mind. First signs of respect after what felt like half a day. Zorak cornered Arya again. This time she didn't dodge. Their blades clashed her training sword against his claws. She was fast, but he could feel the strain in her movements. She was human, after all. He pressed forward, forcing her back against a wall. But then, she smiled. Better. A sudden hiss filled the air. From vents above, thick white mist poured down, covering the floor. Zorak's vision was good, but the mist was laced with some kind of static interference, distorting his visor. Arya's voice was closer now. "You're learning, but the gauntlet isn't over." She struck again, swift, precise. He blocked 2 blows, but the third cut a shallow line across his arm. It wasn't deep, but it stung. "You bleed like we do," Arya said quietly. Final push of the gauntlet. Zorak's pride burned. He refused to be outmatched by a human. The maze shifted one last time, opening into a large, circular arena. The floor panels glowed faint blue. Arya stood at the center, sword at her side. "Final round. Reach me before the drones take you down." From the walls, dozens of stunned drones emerged. Zorak roared and charged. Bolts of energy streaked toward him. He dodged, rolled, smashed 2 drones with his claws, then leapt forward. The gravity suddenly dropped, sending him soaring high too. High. Arya used the moment. She dashed forward, swinging her sword. Zorak landed hard, blocking the strike, their blades locking together. For a long moment, neither moved. Finally, Arya stepped back and lowered her sword. Enough, the drones powered down. The maze dissolved back into smooth walls. Aftermath. Zorak stood breathing hard, sweat running down his face. His armor was scorched in places. Arya studied him. "You're better than I expected." "Most fail." "The gauntlet in the first hour." Zorak straightened. "You think this proves humans are strong?" Arya smiled faintly. "No, this proves we're prepared. You haven't even seen the real training yet." She walked toward the exit, motioning for him to follow. Cliffhanger to Part 3. As they stepped into the night air outside the dome, a loud alarm began to blare across the academy. Red lights flashed along the walls. Cadets ran to stations. Instructors shouted orders. Arya's smile vanished. "This isn't a drill." Zorak turned toward the sky and froze. High above, dark shapes were entering Earth's atmosphere. He knew those silhouettes. Krell warships. The red alarm lights pulsed like a heartbeat across the academy walls. The sound was sharp and urgent, a long, piercing siren that echoed over the training grounds. Zorak's head tilted toward the sky. Dark shapes moved above the clouds, their outlines lit by flashes of re-entry fire. Even from here, he knew them. Krell scout ships. His own people. Arya Voss, standing beside him, didn't need an explanation. Her eyes narrowed. "Looks like your friends found us." Zorak said nothing. Part of him wanted to warn her. Another part wanted to see what these humans would do when real danger came. Within seconds, the academy transformed. The cadets, who only moments ago were relaxing after training, snapped into perfect order. Groups ran to weapons lockers. Others sprinted toward the walls. Mechanics opened hidden panels in the ground, revealing turrets that rose smoothly into place. There was no panic, no hesitation, only speed. Zorak had seen entire Krell garrisons take longer to mobilize. The Krell ships descend from the sky. The first Krell dropship broke through the clouds, black and sharp-edged, engines roaring. A squad of instructors stood on the wall, scanning it through scopes. "Hold fire," one ordered. "Wait until they commit," Zorak frowned. "Why not strike first?" Arya glanced at him. "Because patience kills more enemies than panic." The dropship came closer. Closer. Now. The instructor barked. The wall-mounted turrets opened. Up, streams of blue energy lancing through the sky. The dropship's shields flared, then failed. A second volley tore through its hull, and it fell in a spiral of flame toward the forest. The cadets cheered, not in celebration, but in readiness for the next wave. Zorak joins the defense. More Krell ships appeared. 3, then 5. They spread out, preparing to land troops around the academy. Zorak's instincts screamed that he should stay out of it. But watching the humans, something strange twisted inside him. He didn't want to see them lose. Without asking, he grabbed a discarded rifle from a weapons rack. Its weight was unfamiliar, lighter than Krell rifles, but perfectly balanced. Arya noticed. You planning to fight? Zorak's jaw tightened. I am planning to win. The first ground assault, the Krell soldiers hit the ground outside the walls in heavy drop pods. Metal doors blew open, and armored figures poured out, roaring in the Krell battle tongue. Zorak could see they were standard shock troops, strong, heavily armed, trained for brute force assaults. Against most species, they were unstoppable, but the humans didn't meet them head-on. Instead, they let the Krell advance toward the walls, then opened fire from multiple angles at once. Sniper fire cut down squad leaders. Hidden trenches erupted with explosives. The Krell formation broke. Apart within minutes, divide and bleed, Arya muttered. That's how you take down giants. A test of will. The fighting grew intense. Zorak fought alongside a squad of cadets, covering their flanks while they advanced to secure fallen enemy weapons. One cadet, barely more than a boy, was hit in the leg by a glancing shot. He went down hard. Zorak moved to pull him back, but the cadet shoved his hand away. No, keep going. You are injured, Zorak growled. I can still shoot. The boy barked, dragging himself to a better firing position. Zorak stared for a moment, then left him to it. The boy was pale, his leg bleeding, but his rifle stayed steady. This was not how Krell soldiers behaved. Injured warriors were pulled back to safety. But here, these humans kept fighting, no matter the cost. The turning point. By midday, smoke covered the battlefield. The Krell had lost half their ground troops, but more dropships were descending. Zorak found Arya near the command post, speaking into a device. They're trying to surround us, she said. We'll break them on the east side before they can close the ring. Zorak stepped forward. That will work, but you'll need a distraction to pull their heavy units away. Arya raised an eyebrow. You volunteering? Zorak nodded. I know their tactics. I can draw them into the open. She studied him for a moment, then smiled faintly. All right, alien. Let's see if you can run with humans. The distraction run. An hour later, Zorak was crouched behind a ridge with 6 cadets, all armed with portable launchers. Remember, Arya's voice crackled in his earpiece. You just need to make them mad enough to chase you. Zorak grinned. That will not be difficult. He rose from cover and fired the first shot, a plasma bolt that slammed into the Krell's heavy transport. The Krell turned instantly, roaring in fury. Zorak and the cadets sprinted, leaping over rocks and ducking into gullies as enemy fire chased them. The humans were fast, surprisingly fast. Even burdened with gear, they kept pace with him. One cadet stumbled, falling behind. Without a word, another grabbed his arm and pulled him along. Zorak noticed it. The same thing from the gauntlet. They refused to leave anyone behind. The counterattack, the distraction worked. The Krell heavy units moved away from their main formation to pursue. That's when Arya struck. From hidden positions, human forces poured fire into the weakened east flank. Explosions lit the sky. The Krell line collapsed. Zorak and his team rejoined the main force, pushing the Krell back toward their drop pods. The humans fought with everything: rifles, blades, even bare hands when needed. And through it all, their voices stayed steady. Their movements coordinated. The final stand of the day. As night fell, the Krell launched one last desperate push. They broke through a section of the wall, forcing the humans into close-quarters combat inside the academy grounds. Zorak found himself back-to-back with Arya, surrounded by Krell warriors. You fight well for someone who thought we were weak, Arya said between strikes. Zorak snarled, driving his claws through an enemy's armor. You fight well for someone so fragile. They moved together like they had trained for years, cutting through the Krell until the survivors finally retreated into the darkness. Aftermath, a new understanding by dawn. The battlefield was silent except for the sound of cleanup crews. Krell ships were pulling away, their first assault broken. Zorak stood on the wall, watching them leave. Arya joined him. "They'll be back," she said. "I know," Zorak replied. He glanced at her. "But they will not find you easy prey." She smirked. "Good, we're just getting started." Cliffhanger for Part 4, before they could say more. A shadow passed over the sun. A massive Krell warship, far larger than the scout ships, was descending from orbit. Zorak's chest tightened. "That," he said quietly, "is my commander's flagship." Arya's eyes hardened. "Then we'd better show him exactly what humans can do." The shadow of the Krell flagship swallowed the morning light dot. It was so big that it blotted out the sun over the Terran Military Academy. Its black, angular hull stretched across the sky like a floating mountain. Dozens of smaller escort ships swarmed around it, their engines glowing a cold, pale blue. Commander Zorak's chest tightened. He knew that ship. He had walked its halls, stood on its command deck. He also knew the man who commanded it, High Warlord Dravok. Dravok was not here for scouting. He was here to destroy. Beside him, Captain Arya Voss didn't flinch. Her eyes were fixed on the massive warship, studying it like a predator watching prey. "Looks like your commander brought the whole hunting pack," she said quietly. Zorak's voice was low. "This is no hunt, this is an execution." Arya turned her head toward him. "Then we'd better make sure it's his." The academy prepares for war. The academy was already in motion. Cadets moved in perfect order, bringing heavy weapons to the walls. Mechanics sprinted across the grounds, pulling tarps off concealed artillery positions. From the main hangar, sleek human gunships rolled out on grav pads, their weapons armed and humming. Zorak watched, impressed despite himself. The humans were not scrambling in panic. They were moving like they'd prepared for this exact moment. Arya gave orders as she walked, her voice sharp and clear. "East wall, get the shield projectors online. South battery, target the escorts first. Flight Wing 1, stay low until I give the signal." She turned to Zorak. "You're coming with me." Zorak blinked. "Where?" "To the command center," she said. "If your people want a crush, US will need to know how they think." Inside the command center was buried beneath the main academy building, protected by layers of reinforced steel and energy shielding. Giant holoscreens showed the battlefield above. The Krell flagship hung motionless for now, but its escorts were moving into a wide attack formation. Arya pointed at the map. "They'll try to pin us down with the escorts before the big one fires." Zorak nodded. "That is Dravok's way. Let the prey tire itself against smaller predators, then deliver the killing blow." "Good," Arya said. "Then we just have to make him waste his bite." She turned to her officers. "Phase 1, bleed the escorts. Make them come to us." The battle begins. The first wave of Krell escort ships dived toward the academy. The ground shook as human anti-air batteries opened fire, streaks of blue and white energy ripping into the sky. The escorts dodged and rolled, but the humans were ready. Hidden turrets popped up from camouflaged bunkers, striking from unexpected angles. One escort ship took a direct hit and spiraled out of control, crashing into the forest beyond. Another was caught in a crossfire and exploded mid-air. Zorak's eyes narrowed. "You are not just defending, you are hunting them." Arya gave a thin smile. "Now you're starting to understand." The first human counterattack Flight Wing 1 launched from behind the academy, a dozen small, fast human gunships hugging the ground to stay under Krell scanners. At Arya's signal, they rose as one, blasting straight into the escort's blind spot. Missiles streaked upward, punching through the Krell ship's engines. Zorak watched in disbelief as the humans moved with perfect timing. The Krell ships were larger, stronger, and better armed, but the humans struck like knives in the dark, disappearing before the enemy could retaliate. Within minutes, 4 escorts were gone. Dravok responds. A deep, rumbling voice came over the Open comes, Zorak. It growled. Zorak froze. He knew that voice. You have betrayed your people. I will burn this planet and scatter its ashes, and you will watch from the flames. Arya's face was calm, but her eyes flashed with something. Cold, passion through to me. Zorak hesitated, but obeyed. This is Captain Arya Voss of the Terran Military Academy, she said into the comms. If you think you can take this world, Dravuk, come down here and try. There was silence for a moment. Then Dravuk laughed. I will. The flagship moves. The massive Krell flagship began to descend, its underbelly glowing as power built for a main cannon strike. Arya didn't wait. Phase 2, hit them now. Every human artillery piece on the grounds opened fire, targeting the flagship's escorts to clear a path. The air filled with explosions, smoke, and falling debris. Zorak stood beside Arya, reading the Krell's movements. He is shifting power to shields. That means the cannon will take longer to charge. Then we make him charge it forever, Arya said. The hunter becomes the hunted. The humans shifted tactics. Instead of holding position, they pushed forward, gunships darting through the wreckage of falling escorts, infantry squads slipping out through concealed tunnels to strike at Krell landing zones. Dravok's forces had expected prey to hide. Instead, they were the ones being stalked. Zorak found himself in the middle of the chaos, fighting alongside human soldiers in the ruins of a crashed escort. They moved fast, clearing enemy squads before slipping back into cover. One human, a woman barely out of training, grinned at him between bursts of fire. Fun, isn't it? Zorak didn't answer, but part of him agreed. Breaking the formation by mid-battle, only half of Dravok's escorts were still airborne. The rest burned in the sky or lay shattered in the forest, but the flagship was still descending. Its cannon glowed brighter now, the air humming with energy. Arya turned to Zorak. How close do we need to get to disable that gun? Too close, he said. The cannon is shielded and buried deep in the hull. A direct hit from inside the ship is the only way. Arya's smile was dangerous. Then we go inside. The infiltration plan in the command center. Arya laid out the plan. A small strike team would board the flagship using a captured Krell shuttle, sneak into the gun chamber, and disable it before it could fire. Zorak knew it was nearly impossible. But looking around the room, he saw no fear in the humans' faces, only determination. You are all mad, he said finally. Maybe, Arya replied, but mad works. Boarding the beast, under the cover of heavy anti-air fire, the captured shuttle rose from the academy and streaked toward the flagship. Inside, Zorak sat across from Arya and 6 hand-picked soldiers. Their weapons were ready, their eyes locked forward. As they neared the massive ship, Zorak's claws dug into the armrest. He could feel the hum of the flagship's engines through the hull. The shuttle slid into a maintenance bay, and the team moved fast, cutting through guards before they could sound the alarm. Inside the flagship, the interior of the Krell flagship was vast, filled with echoing metal corridors and the low growl of engines. Zorak led the way, guiding them through lesser-used passages toward the cannon's power core. They moved like shadows, striking only when needed. Arya's soldiers adapted instantly to the alien environment, using cover that Zorak himself would have overlooked. Finally, they reached the core chamber, a massive vertical shaft filled with glowing conduits. This is it, Zorak said. Destroy this, and the cannon dies. Cliffhanger end for Part 5, before they could plant the charges. A deep, heavy voice echoed through the chamber. Zorak. Dravuk stepped out from the shadows, towering over even Zorak. His armor gleamed black and crimson, and in his hands he held a massive plasma blade. I told you, the High Warlord growled. You would watch this world burn. Arya raised her rifle. Not today, Zorak stepped forward, claws ready. Then you will have to kill us first. The hum of the Cannon grew louder, the glow brightening. The countdown to fire had begun. The hum of the flagship's main cannon filled the chamber. Like the roar of a dying star, Zorak's claws flexed on the metal floor. Across from him, Dravok loomed like a shadow carved from black stone. His crimson eyes glowed with hatred and confidence. "You've brought humans into my ship," Dravok growled. "You betray your own kind for these weaklings?" Zorak said nothing. His eyes were fixed on the massive plasma blade in Dravok's hands. It pulsed with energy, a weapon, capable of slicing through reinforced hulls like paper. Arya stood behind Zorak, rifle trained on the warlord. The rest of the team had taken cover behind control consoles. "You will not fire that cannon," Arya said calmly. "Not today." Dravok laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that shook the walls. "You think a few humans can stop me? Pathetic." Zorak's mind raced. He had trained with Dravok, studied his tactics, and knew every weakness. But even with this knowledge, a direct fight against the warlord was nearly impossible. "The duel begins," Dravok lunged, swinging his massive blade. Zorak rolled aside, claws scraping sparks from the reinforced floor. The first strike was a warning. The second cut a deep groove in the metal wall. Zorak countered, slashing at Dravok's arm, but the alien's armor absorbed the blow. "Your strength is impressive," Dravok hissed, stepping closer. "But not enough." Zorak's claws flicked out in rapid succession, forcing Dravok to block. Each strike was fast, precise, calculated. Yet every move seemed anticipated by the warlord behind them. Arya watched carefully. "Don't just fight," she muttered under her breath. "Think." Zorak's mind raced. He needed a distraction, something to give the humans a chance to reach the cannon core. A risky Planzarak dove low, skidding under Dravok's swing. Sparks flew from the floor. He leapt up and yelled to the humans, "Go!" "The core is undefended." For 30 seconds. Arya nodded and sprinted toward the glowing conduit of the cannon's power core. The strike team followed, carrying charges designed to disable the massive weapon. Dravok turned, realizing the movement. "You dare betray me, Zorak." Zorak planted his feet. "I dare save this world." The warlord advanced, swinging the plasma blade in wide arcs. Zorak dodged, countered, and led Dravok closer to the core chamber. Each strike, each move, was calculated to buy precious seconds. The infiltration team reaches the core inside the core chamber. Arya and the strike team worked. Quickly, Zorak's voice echoed over comms. "Place the charges near the conduits and be ready to detonate on my mark." Cadet Lyra, her hand steady despite the heat of battle, planted the first charge. Another followed. Sparks flew as they connected, their glow reflecting off the walls. "This is it," Arya said quietly. "Once the charges detonate, the cannon will be useless." Zorak could hear Dravok's footsteps growing louder. He glanced back. The warlord's blade had already sliced through 2 support consoles, sending sparks and smoke into the air. Time was running out. The confrontation. Intensify Shurak engaged Dravok with all his might. The warlord's swings were deadly, capable of cutting through reinforced steel, yet Zorak dodged and countered, exploiting every small opening. "Why betray your own?" Dravok hissed between strikes. "To see humans survive," Zorak snapped. "To see them rise against your empire." A strike from Dravok knocked Zorak back into a wall, sending a shower of metal fragments into the air. Pain shot through his arm, but he clenched his teeth. "You are weak," Dravok growled, preparing for a finishing blow. Zorak's eyes narrowed. He feinted left, then rolled under the warlord's blade, delivering a strike to the side of Dravok's knee. Not enough to harm, but enough to throw off balance. The human team activates the charges. Arya's voice crackled over comms. "Now!" Zorak! Zorak leapt away from Dravok just as a wave of light erupted in the core chamber. The charges detonated, sending a shockwave of energy throughout the chamber. Sparks, smoke, and debris flew everywhere. The cannon's massive energy core flickered and died, its glow extinguishing instantly. Dravok stumbled, roaring in anger. "You dare destroy my weapon?" Zorak pressed forward, claws out. "I dare save a planet." The warlord strikes back. Dravok recovered quickly, swinging his blade in a wide arc. Zorak blocked, sparks flying from the clash. "You cannot win," Dravok hissed. "I am Krell, I am power." Zorak dodged, countered, and pushed the warlord toward the edge of a catwalk overlooking the engine core. The hum of the engines beneath created an ominous vibration through the floor. "You underestimate humans," Zorak spat. "Their will is unbreakable, and now, so am I." The traitor's choice. Dravok paused, his crimson eyes narrowing. "Zorak, join me. Together we can crush them, rule Earth, and bring glory to the Krell Empire." Zorak froze. The choice hung in the air, betrayal or loyalty to his new understanding. He looked around the chamber. Arya and the humans were tense but ready. They had trusted him, relied on him. The warlord struck again. "Choose now, alien." Zorak's claws flexed. His jaw tightened. Finally he spoke. "I choose life. For them, not empire." He lunged at Dravok with everything he had, pushing him backward off balance. The warlord falls. Dravok stumbled, his plasma blade swinging wildly. He roared, but the momentum of his misstep sent him toppling over the edge of the catwalk. Zorak's eyes followed him as he fell toward the engine core below. A massive explosion followed, not of the engines, but from a safety system that activated in the last second, destroying Dravok's armor mid-fall. Silence filled the chamber. Arya emerged from the smoke, rifle lowered. "He's gone?" Zorak nodded, still catching his breath. "For now." Aftermath of the battle, the strike team quickly regrouped. The cannon was destroyed. The flagship's systems were damaged but not destroyed. Zorak walked among the humans, watching their faces, young, exhausted, yet triumphant. Arya approached him. "You fought well today. You didn't just survive the gauntlet. You proved something far greater." Zorak's tail twitched. "What's that?" "That humans are not weak. They are prepared, clever, and unbreakable." The moral of the battle outside. The Krell flagship limped away, its escorts in retreat. Earth had survived the first strike. Not because of superior numbers or firepower, but because humans fought with determination, coordination, and unshakable will. Zorak realized something he had never known. Strength alone does not conquer. Courage, ingenuity, and loyalty can turn the tables on even the mightiest. Cliffhanger for Part 6. As the humans celebrated, Zorak stood apart, gazing at the night sky. In the distance, a fleet of massive Krell ships appeared, moving faster than expected. Arya noticed him staring. "More are coming?" Zorak's voice was quiet, steady, but grim. "And they'll be worse than Dravok." The stars seemed to burn brighter as Earth's defenders prepared for the next inevitable battle. The night sky burned with distant fire. A fleet of massive Krell warships cut across the stars, descending toward Earth like black meteors. Their shapes were sharp, jagged, designed to strike terror even from orbit. Commander Zorak stood on the Academy wall, his claws folded at his sides, eyes following the approaching armada. Captain Arya Voss joined him, rifle slung but posture steady. Her face showed no fear, only focus. "They are coming faster than we expected," Zorak said. Arya's gaze hardened. "Then we won't just defend, we'll strike first." The humans around them moved with swift precision. Soldiers armed. Artillery, cadets checked weapons, and engineers activated energy shields that shimmered along the perimeter. Zorak's sharp alien eyes scanned the ground. Every trench, turret, and defensive position had been optimized. Every human here was ready to fight to the last breath. The first strike without warning, the Krell fleet opened fire. Energy bolts streaked across the atmosphere, slamming into mountains, forests, and outlying training grounds. Explosions lit the sky. Smoke rose in thick columns. Zorak roared and sprinted toward a falling squad of cadets, tossing them aside as a plasma bolt struck where they had been standing moments ago. Arya barked. Orders: deploy the drone swarms. Activate gravity fields. Keep them off our walls. The drones rose like swarming birds, zipping between incoming Krell ships, firing pulses to disrupt engines. Some Krell vessels faltered, sparks shooting from their hulls. Zorak blinked. He had never seen humans fight on such a scale, not with panic, but with precise coordination. Counterattack from the Academy humans struck back. Artillery fired in carefully timed volleys. Missiles streaked skyward, weaving through Krell energy blasts. Zorak leapt onto a turret, firing alongside a cadet barely 15 years old. The boy's hands were steady, aiming perfectly. Zorak's claws helped reload and fire again. Above, the smaller Krell ships were taking heavy losses. One crashed into the sea after a direct hit from coordinated fire. Arya shouted, "Keep pushing! Let them feel our strength." Zorak felt an unfamiliar surge, admiration, perhaps even pride. These humans, fragile as they seemed, were nothing like he had expected. A Krell countermove high above, a massive Krell dreadnought broke away from the fleet. Its engines glowed red, and its cannons charged in sequence. Zorak growled. "That ship can destroy the Academy in one shot," Arya nodded. "Then it will be the first to fall." She signaled Flight Wing 1, a squadron of human gunships, to engage. They streaked upward, dodging heavy fire, missiles flaring. The humans worked as one. One gunship would draw fire while others struck the weak points. Explosions rocked the dreadnought. A section of its hull crumpled under precision hits. Zorak was stunned. The humans were hunting the hunters. Zorak in battle. Zorak tore across the battlefield. His claws shredded Krell infantry that landed outside the main defenses. He moved with perfect coordination alongside human soldiers, blocking attacks, pulling cadets from harm, and guiding artillery fire. A Krell officer lunged at a cadet. Zorak intercepted with a single strike, sending the alien crashing into a barricade. The boy did not hesitate. He reloaded and fired again, his face calm, almost exhilarated. Zorak had to admit, humans thrived under pressure in ways even Krell warriors did not. Boarding the dreadnought while the main battle raged below, Arya led a small boarding team toward the Krell dreadnought. Zorak followed, carrying 2 cadets. The docking bay was open, but heavily guarded. They moved silently, taking down sentries with quick, precise strikes. The cadets followed instructions, without question, adapting faster than Zorak expected. Inside, the corridors were dark, humming with alien machinery. Zorak's vision pierced the shadows. Every turn revealed more soldiers, Krell guards. Arya raised her rifle. "Stay focused. One mistake, and it's over." Zorak's claws flexed. "One mistake? We don't make mistakes." The power core room. They reached the heart of the dreadnought, a massive energy core glowing bright red. The cannon that could obliterate the Academy was charging. Arya whispered, "Place the charges. We have minutes, maybe seconds." Zorak positioned himself at the door. "Cover us." Cadets rushed forward, planting explosive charges at the energy conduits. Sparks flew, smoke curled, alarms blared. The countdown to fire accelerated. Zorak blocked the door as Krell guards poured in. The team fought in tight quarters, every strike precise, every shot calculated. Climax, the cannon disabled, the last charge was set. Arya nodded to Zorak. He jumped, claws slashing, and knocked aside a Krell officer trying to reach the cadets. "Now!" Arya shouted. The explosives detonated. The dreadnought shook violently, the cannon short-circuiting and exploding in a burst of fire. Krell screams echoed through the corridors. The ship rocked, alarms screaming. Zorak and the humans raced back toward the docking bay, narrowly avoiding falling debris. Outside, the dreadnought plummeted into the ocean, explosions lighting the night like fireworks. Victory and human resilience. The remaining Krell ships, seeing the destruction, retreated. The human cadets cheered, though exhaustion weighed on them. Zorak stood atop the academy wall, watching the sky. His claws still tingled with adrenaline. Arya approached. "You see now?" she said softly. "We are not weak." Zorak nodded slowly. "Stronger than I imagined. Your courage, your will. It's something Krell cannot understand." "Exactly," Arya said. "And we will not be broken." The cost of battle. The academy grounds were scarred. Craters, smoldering wrecks, and burned-out vehicles littered the fields. Zorak walked among the survivors, noting the cadets who had fallen, the soldiers who carried injuries yet smiled in relief. Every human present had fought to survive, and had won. Even Zorak felt something shift inside him. The HFY truth he had underestimated before was undeniable. Humans may be fragile, but they could endure, adapt, and strike back in ways even. The strongest alien underestimated. Closing moment. Hope and vigilance. Night settled over the academy. Fires burned in the distance, but the walls held. Humans patrolled, checking defenses, and preparing for the next inevitable strike. Zorak looked to Arya. "More will come." Arya nodded. "And we'll be ready, every time." Zorak studied the stars. "They think they are hunters. But we are the predators now." A faint smile crossed his face. He had come to learn one unshakable truth. Humans are not just survivors. They are warriors, unbreakable, cunning, and relentless. And now, Zorak would stand with them, fighting not for empire, but for life itself. The night air carried the sounds of preparation. Every soldier, cadet, and engineer knew the war was far from over. But for the first time, the Krell would understand Earth is not an easy target. Humans would defend it with every ounce of strength, courage, and heart they possessed. The end.